Hi, and welcome to Terry Travels, and welcome to me driving through the preschool traffic jam that every place gets when kids have to be dropped off to school. We're heading to a place with a slightly rude name, Cobbledick's Ford, which is a little out of the burb, but it's going to be fun. And then we're going to head on to Melton, an exurb of Melbourne in the west, which doesn't get anywhere enough infrastructure or respect. Then we're going to head to Bacchus Marsh, which is a little town on the edge of things, way out of Melbourne, which has some interesting market gardens and some historic buildings and things like that. So I'm just going to go for a bit of a meander this morning. Got to get back by about lunchtime, so it's not going to be a long day of travelling the way it was when I went to Mount Gambier, but it is still going to be a little bit of a cruise out of Melbourne to see the transition between urban areas and the countryside. So I've just got to get through here. All of this is really new housing. 10 years ago, this was all paddocks and countryside. It's all very, very recent stuff. I don't mind. People need to live somewhere, I suppose. For the amount of time I've lived in this general district, it's been a big transition between urbanisation, well, from pastoral countryside to urbanisation. And yes, people will complain about it, but people need to live somewhere. And so the housing needs to get done. The weird thing about it, and I've mentioned this before on a video, I believe, is that all these houses have black tiled roofs, which in the Australian environment is pretty stupid, really, because the sunlight, and this is still summertime, it's a little bit cold for some time, but it's summertime, the sunlight gets absorbed into the roof cavities and creates heat islands in this kind of an area, which doesn't help with the local environment, and obviously it doesn't help with global warming either, because if I've got a pale roof on our house and that reflects sunlight, which I suppose in some tiny minuscule way helps the environment, but these black roofs and dark grey roofs are really bad for local environments and also globally. Heat islands are not a pleasant place when, what's the top temperature we had this year? 45 degrees centigrade. When it gets to that, it's an incredibly oppressive environment, and having more trees, and yes, there are a few trees along here, but they're very token, but having more trees and having more greenery gets rid of that heat island effect and helps with local conditions. There's my little rant for the morning. So we're heading toward Cobbledick's Ford, going past, see how they got, going past all of this exurb, see how they've got this little kind of token row of trees. These are the original landscape trees for the area. And by the way, I'm not turning my camera towards me at the moment because the rear view mirror is in the way. I've positioned the camera badly for showing me on the camera. You'll see me on the camera when we get to Cobbledick's Ford, but at the moment it's facing forward towards the traffic basically. But I picked a good morning for it. It is sunny. It's not going to be warm today. It's 15 degrees at the moment, which is pretty cool for summertime. But we're going to get there, and we're going to see some stuff that you won't see on other YouTube channels. I don't even know whether there's many who've actually been to Cobbledick's Ford. There wouldn't have been many. And then we're going to fang it up past Eynesbury and into Melton. But I've got stuck in a very ephemeral traffic jam. 20 minutes from now, I'm going to be cruising 70 kilometres an hour down this road. But at the moment, it's creeping along because everybody's getting dropped off of school. Over on the right here, there's a nice little cafe called Little Growling Cafe, which is named after the little growling frog, an endangered frog species that lives in the creek just behind the cafe. And they growl. They're only tiny and they growl. That mating ritual, I suppose. But Little Growling Cafe, nice food, shit coffee. I like the food at Little Growling, but the coffee is egregiously bad. That's something that can be improved, but if you want just a standard bacon and egg breakfast, it's not a bad little place to go. See, you see a little bit of the creek behind the sun-dried grass around here. But hopefully after this roundabout, traffic will pick up and I can get out of here and get to where we're going. How you been anyway? We've been enjoying the summertime, been busy with the other channel, got a lot of cool movies to talk about, which is always nice, and I'm really leaning into trying to find quirky movies rather than just mainstream ones to talk about on that channel, but that's for the other channel. But while I am sitting in dark rooms watching movies, it's good to get out and about in the sunshine, and one of the things about this travel channel is that it's a little bit of a circuit breaker that enables me to do something else besides just watching movies, editing videos about movies and all that kind of stuff, and it's cathartic for me. So here we are, back to 70 because we've got past the school zone, hopefully. Not too sure about whether we're going to be on a dirt road or not when we head up to Melton. The road may have been properly done as bitumen, or it may not. We won't know until we get there, and that's part of the fun of these drives. The stuff you don't know until you get there. And I think we should let this lady with the pram cross. What do you reckon? Is it a lady or a man? It is a man with a pram. Or is it a lady? It's a very butch lady. And there's nothing wrong with that. Down past the shopping centre here, we do have Aldi in Australia. If people are in a part of the world has Aldi, we have those as well. That's where we normally do our shopping, even though it's a little far away. It's the most comfortable Aldi to do the shopping. And the other good thing with Aldi, of course, is the mysterious middle aisle, where there's an aisle in the middle, well, there's a few aisles in the middle of an Aldi supermarket, where you don't know what the hell is going to be there. And half the time you don't know what the hell the things are. And that's part of the fun. It makes it much more interesting to shop at an Aldi than it does to shop at Coles or Woolworths. Because they're very, very kind of static in the stuff they have, whereas Aldi does a lot of seasonal things. When Oktoberfest is coming up, you get a lot of German food, including big pretzels and really good mustards and things like that, and various times of year you do get seasonal stuff at Aldi, and that's kind of cool. I'm waffling because the traffic lights have stopped and I can't talk about Cobbledick's Ford. Cobbledick's Ford's actually a ford across the Werribee River. Remember in the last video when I talked about the K Cliff track down by the Werribee River? This is upstream from that. This is maybe 20 kilometres upstream because the river meanders. The Werribee River gets so narrow up here that you can actually ford it in a car if the ford is open. If it's not, I'm going to walk down there and show you what it looks like. But you can actually ford the river at Cobbledick's Ford sometimes, depending on the local council as much as anything. So that's kind of fun, crossing a river that looks pretty wide when you get down to the K Road cliffs, but here it isn't. So here we are at Leaks Road, and we're going to be turning left. There's the CFA there on the left, which is the Country Fire Authority. There's the local fire brigade. We're far enough out of town that the CFA, the Country Fire Authority, runs some of the local fire brigades. There are urban ones as well. There's a kind of meshing overlap of the fire brigades. Yeah, we're kind of on the fringe of things now. This is where the suburbs hit the country. And we've got a bridge that goes up and over the railway tracks. Dulcie Shanahan Bridge. I don't know who Dulcie Shanahan is, but she has a bridge named after her. which is pretty cool. And here we are heading, I don't even know if I'm going the right way, to be honest with you. So I'm going to pull over when I can pull over and see whether I am in the right direction, because I haven't been down here for just a little while. And I'm going to check my maps, because I don't think I'm in the right place. Good news, my sense of direction hasn't failed me. I've just got to go up here and around, and I can get to Cobbledick's Ford. And we're down to one lane on the road here, which means I've got to pull over, and that person's got to pull over as well. So that's a bit of fun. Single lane road. They're always fun. And yep, see, we went straight from suburbia to the countryside. No transition, just suddenly bam, we're there, which is kind of interesting. Got a little bit of rain last night too, by the way, and I'm going to have to pull over just a little bit here to let this guy past. The rules are you get half on, half off, but some people kind of don't know the rules, and that's just how things go here, which is kind of interesting in a weird way. It's like Australian road rules, that's what it is. Let's see where I need to be. Yep, I'm going to be turning off to the left up here, and we're going to get around to Cobbledick's Ford, because I think I turned a little bit early back at the roundabout, but that's the way it is. If you're going to set a horror movie anywhere near Melbourne, this would be the place to do it. There's a lot of these kind of big houses on acreage, and they're always a little bit weird and odd. I mean, I think this is where I turn. In fact, it is. So we're turning left to get to Cobbledick's Ford. And again, we're on a single lane road heading west. And I can go up to 80, which is another indication that we're in the rural area. It doesn't get to 80 in any kind of urban setting in Melbourne unless you're on a big freeway. And as you can see, the roads don't get maintained quite as well as they do in other parts of the world, or in other parts of Melbourne even. So yeah, we're here about 20 kilometres southwest of here is a lot of the countryside where they filmed the first Mad Max movie. So there's a bit of that kind of feel about this area, and there's all of these houses on large acreages, and mysteriously they all have about 5 or 6 cars parked there, and you wonder whether the one person owns the cars or they've got some kind of secret thing happening. There's a lot of mystery about people who live out this way. And look at this place. It's got a whole bunch of trucks and heavy equipment in this person's yard. And yeah, maybe they run a business out of it, who knows. But it's a bit, they do pipeline stuff apparently. But it's like the perfect place for horror movies or crime movies out here. And anytime you see a hill around here, chances are it's an extinct volcano as well. There's a lot of old scoria volcanoes out here, Mount Cotterell, a bunch of other ones. And people dump shit on the side of the road here because they're bastards. But it's a bit bouncy. Yeah, this is a little bit rock and roll here, driving along at 80 kilometres an hour on the road to Cobbledick's Ford. But that's part of the fun. And the scariest ones, of course, are the ones who put up all these trees around their acreage, and you never know what's going on behind there. Is there a religious cult? Is there a group of Satanists? Is there just a single mad person murdering people? You never know till you find out in the news. So here we are, getting towards Cobbledick's Ford, and we'll see how we go if I can remember. I know it's a left-hand turn, but we'll see what we've got. What's this sign say? Kingara Park, Accommodation and Function Centre down this way. because this kind of area is perfect for a function centre, isn't it? Nothing scary about that. Having a function centre in this scrubby bushland, well away from the city. I'm not sure. It's still got good mobile coverage. What you need to have for a decent serial killer place, of course, is very bad mobile phone coverage. Here it is, Kingara Park accommodation. Doesn't look too bad. It's actually wide open and has a tennis court, so maybe that ain't too bad. And down here at the T, we're going to go left and head down to Cobbledick's Ford in Dukelows Road. So we're heading south now. I'll drive down to see whether we can go across the ford or not. If we can go across the ford, the second part of this journey is going to be us going to Bacchus Marsh first and then Melton. If we can't get across the ford, the way is going to be going to Melton and then to Bacchus Marsh. And here we are, Cobbledick's Ford Reserve. Road closed due to flooding. So we can't get to, that's actually, I can't get to Cobbledick's Ford because this is private property and I can't get there. And I can't go this way. Well, we'll probably go down to the park, but I can't go down to the ford. So let's see what we get down here. How much of Cobbledick's Ford we can do. Now it says road closed due to flooding. I know that there was a lot of rain yesterday, like a fair bit of heavy rain and a little bit of thunder. Looks like they're doing a bit of fence fixing and things like that here. But this is the road down to Cobbledick's Ford, which is single lane, so you've got to pull over if somebody comes ahead of you. Chances are on a Thursday morning, this time 9:20 in the afternoon, 9:20 in the morning, that there's not going to be anybody down here, which is kind of nice. And as you can see, these rocks lining the road are all old scoria volcanic rocks from the extinct volcanoes in the region. But there is a parking area down here and a bit of a park. It says water over road closed, which means that the ford is flowing. And if you go down here, past these lovely trees, we'll take a look at Cobbledick's Ford. Oh, beautiful little native birds down here as well. It's a little bit of a nice environment for the birdies. You pull off to the left there and take a look at the parking area. But I'm going to see how far I can get down here toward the ford and just see what's happening. I know it widens out enough down here. There we go. There's our answer. It's blocked off. The ford is definitely blocked off. But I'll get the camera out and just show you what it's like down here. Let's demount the camera. Nobody's going to come up behind me, fortunately. I'm going to have to do it like a 20-point turn to get out, turn off the engine, of course. What a pity, Cobbledick's Ford's closed. But there we are, we're kind of in a gully here. And down there, as you can see, just watch where I'm walking, is the old ford, and the Werribee River flows across it. Now, I used to be able to drive across that and up the other side and onto the road to Bacchus Marsh, but I can't at the moment. But I mean, we've gone from urban areas, right? Let's get the keys out of the way. We've gone from urban areas pretty quickly to bushland here, which is very cool. You can hear the birds. There's the car. And if we hang around long enough, Might even see some swamp wallabies or something, but I'm not going to hang around that long. I'm going to maybe back up and see if I can reverse out to get us out of here and then head up to Melton. But it's very nice and quiet down here, and because of the river we get a lot of wildlife, which is kind of cool. But let me get back in the car now and I'll mount the camera again and we'll head up to Melton. Let's see if I can do it all in one shot. There we go, we've got the camera mounted. Shut the door. Might try to do a multi-point turn here just for the amusement of it. The RAV4 isn't the smallest of cars, but I'll see what I can do to turn us where we need to be, which might be a bit of fun because the road's not much wider than the car is. Multi-point turn, definitely. Don't want to go too much further there. Back it up a bit. Yep, don't go any further than that. Such fun. Delicate work here. Don't try this at home, which is the first time I've had an opportunity to say that on this channel. But we'll wing it around. Get us out of the ditch. I might be able to do it this turn. Yep, here I am. I got us turned around. So brownie points for me for being able to get us out of the dead end down at Cobbledick's Ford here. This property will be under electronic surveillance, it says. There is a car park up there, you can go and bushwalks around here. But I'm not inclined to today. I've had enough drama with Cobbledick's Ford there. But I'm going to pull over just here because there's nobody coming. And I'm going to check the maps for the quickest way up to Melton. I think I know what it is. But occasionally, I doubt myself. So let's get out of that. Melton. You can't see this, but I'm looking at my phone maps. Let's have a look. Yeah, I can do it. It says 24 minutes. Let's see what we can do. Okay. And I think for sure we're going to be going onto a dirt road, which, you know, will be so quintessentially Australian that you shouldn't have any problem with that. So back the way we came. Sorry about that. Cobbledick's Ford was less interesting than I wanted it to be, and we've got bugs on the windscreen, of course. So I'll do a bit of a wipe there and see if I can get rid of some of them. Plenty of petrol in the tank, by the way. Alright. Closing the Ford, they should put a tiny little bridge there. Doesn't have to be fancy. Could be the way it is down at Altona. But they should put a bridge there so you can get across. But very few people come here. Even though it does have a rude name. It's not a particularly popular place. And most people just don't know it's here, even though it's like 10 minutes from the suburbs. Another serial killer house over on the left, underneath the high tension power lines. But we're going to be heading north now to Melton, and then we're going to go to Bacchus Marsh. And while I'm there, I might as well check out some thrift stores and see what I can see. So onto Doherty's Road, which goes all the way, most like half the way to Melbourne is on Doherty's Road, and then the rest of it's the freeway. But Doherty's Road goes from this to like 4 lanes of heavy traffic, which is kind of weird and wonderful. It just peters out at the end here. And I've done the one thing I always do wrong on these drives, and I haven't got myself a water, so I'm going to stop and get a bottle of water when we get to Melton, because talking dries you out. We're heading east into the sunlight now, and then just past this truck, I'm pretty sure this is where we turn left onto the dirt road. In fact, this could be it here. Let me just pull over and check the maps again, because like I said, I'm a little bit uncertain about things. Okay. Nope, it's a bit further along. Yep, that'll be fine. So this is the parts of Melbourne you don't see on other YouTube channels. But it's a very good reason for it. It's flat and kind of run down. It's not picturesque like little cafes in little alleys in the Melbourne CBD. It's nothing like that. Should have worn my sunglasses, to be honest with you, but I didn't. So if I was rich, if the channels really went ballistic, it'd be nice to buy a chunk of this acreage and purpose build a big studio for the YouTube channels, and also have a home theatre. And I believe this is where I turn left onto the dirt road. It is not. I'm fucking up today big time, but that's okay. Wow. I haven't had breakfast, that's what it is. I haven't had breakfast yet. And it does seem to be messing with my mojo a little bit. Probably should grab something to eat in Melton. That might be the way to go. This is going to be a long driving video, so bear with me on this. I'm going to waffle while we cover the ground. And, yeah, really odd. Yeah, I've got to go just a little bit further and off to the left onto Sewell's Road, which isn't too much further along here. Might have to put the AC on because it's getting a little bit warm in the car. And I think where that tree line is up ahead is where Sewell's Road is. If I'm not wrong, which I've been, how many times have I been wrong in this video so far? It's been more than twice. Yeah, this is Sewell's Road. So we're going to chuck a lefty here, past one of those spooky houses. And it says rough surface, which it is. So there we go, we're off the beaten track onto the dirt road. There's going to be a lot of rumbling in the audio, but that is not to be helped. But the road is wide enough that this person's going to pass me. And there's a thing you do where you raise a finger to the people you're passing on dirt roads. So you go like that, and you raise your hand, and you go past them, and that person didn't do it. It's just an acknowledgement that somebody else is stupid as you are, going along a rough road. So yeah, here we go. Up and around, and heading toward Melton. By the way, there are highways that go this way. Oh, we just got dragged a little bit there. There are highways that go this way. It's not just all dirt roads to get to Melton from where I was in Tarneet. But this is the most direct route if you're talking about how the crow flies. But yeah, haven't been down here for about a year or so. It's not my usual haunts. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a left here. And there is a stop sign, so I'm going to be a good boy and stop entirely at the stop sign. It's not optional. So we stop here, we look both ways, all three ways actually, and head off onto a non-dirt road. Hooray! So we're going to be going west for it a bit, and then we're going to be going north and then we'll get to Melton eventually. By the way, there's no more dirt roads after I do this bit to Melton. All the way to Bacchus Marsh is going to be bitumen, and that's going to be a lot better because the dirt roads do have their own hazards. I'm good on them. I don't do badly on dirt roads, but you've just got to be like twice as aware when you're on a dirt road than when you're on bitumen. And look, there's a cell phone tower up ahead, which means we've got coverage. That's always a good thing. A few horses over there on the right you can't see. I grew up partly on acreage in west of Sydney, a place called Austral, where there are all these small farms. And part of the time I grew up on a farm where the man who owned the farm bred racehorses. And it was weird because he bred singularly unsuccessful racehorses. They were kind of good horses, but they weren't great. And the reason that was an economically viable thing was, if you had horses that looked like they might win the race, but they weren't going to win the race, you could make a lot of money betting against your own horses in Sydney races at the time. There used to be a thing called a Sydney racing identity, which was how journalism coded criminals. If you were involved in criminality and you were at all involved in horse racing, you were known as racing identity. And the people who owned the farm where I lived with my father and his girlfriend and my brother was a Sydney racing identity, who's now dead, and the farm's been broken up into housing estates. But this kind of countryside is not entirely unfamiliar to me. I'm used to snakes and redbacks under the toilet seat and all that other stuff. And we're going north now. This is a familiar environment. It's very different geographically to the environments around Sydney where I grew up, which are a lot more scrubby and bushy. But I know this kind of an exurb area fairly well. And what's this guy doing here? In his truck with something shiny. Not sure. Something mysterious. But yeah, if you can see a hill off to the right slightly, up ahead, that's another one of the volcanoes in the area. So from here on, the navigation gets simpler. So there's not going to be any of me stopping on the side of the road and looking up my Google Maps to find out what's going wrong. We're back on track where we need to be. We're going to cruise past Eynesbury, which is this little suburb that sits in the middle of all this bush. And there's no infrastructure around it apart from itself. It's like an island suburb in the middle of the bush, which was made about 20 or 30 years ago by somebody who decided he wanted to build a suburb there. And it looks a little bit like the town in Truman Show, but in an Australian context. And it's stuck in the middle of this bush. It's the weirdest suburb in Melbourne. And there we go, somebody overtaking me because they're too stupid to realise there's an 80 km/h speed limit here. And over to the left you might see a part of the Brisbane Ranges in the distance. You might not, but I can't tell what you're seeing through the camera lens here. We're going to be going to the bottom of those when we get to Bacchus Marsh. So here we are, doing nicely now, and yeah, over to the left beyond your reach of view is Eynesbury. I could go a coffee as well. I don't know whether there's any decent coffee in Melton, and as you know, I'm a coffee snob, so I've got to have a decent coffee, not just any coffee, but a decent coffee. So I'll see what I can find when we get down there. Yeah, this is a part of Melbourne where people who want to film countryside for TV shows and movies film around here. There's a scene at the end of the first Ghost Rider movie, which is computer enhanced a bit, where Nick Cage's character is on a hill in the countryside. That's filmed around here. It's actually filmed about 10 kilometres back on the other side of Cobbledick's Ford. But yeah, it's this substitutes for Texas and other places a fair bit, because the first Ghost Rider movie was filmed in Melbourne, and it's really funny seeing all of the familiar places pretending to be somewhere else. That's always somewhat amusing for Australians. A bit like in The Matrix, which was filmed in Sydney, and it's all pretending to be America, and you're going, yeah, no, it isn't, it's Sydney. You know, filming in Martin Plaza and places like that, and the railway bridge just near Central Station, all that kind of thing is part of The Matrix. Oh, we got a roundabout. How about that with civilization at last? Here we go. Yeah, I'm getting really thirsty now. You know, this narrating takes the juice out of you. But yeah, it is what it is. And to be honest with you, I'm fortunate enough to not have to work in the traditional sense of work, though the other YouTube channel does pay me a side hustle money, and I'm hoping to monetize this one at some stage. But I'm fortunate that I can spend a day doing stuff like this without it being any kind of pressure on me to make up the time later with making somebody else rich. One of the things I didn't like about working, all the time I worked, I was working for the government. I didn't mind because I was actually building the country, and I did have a number of government jobs at various times, and I didn't mind those at all, because it was the sense that you're actually doing something to knit the country together. When I was working for defence, less so, but I had problems with that. But when I was working for the Government Employment Service, that was a good thing. That was, you know, helping people get jobs is, you know, good work. And particularly if it wasn't for a private company that's trying to make somebody else rich, which inevitably a Conservative government did that with the Employment Service. Totally killed the Employment Service, privatised a lot of it. Those of us who were working there had to sit in empty offices for a year and wait for our redundancy packages. It was a horrible time in my life at that time to just sit in an office knowing you were getting less and less work, waiting for that package for a year. Did have a relationship breakup at the same time, but that was for different reasons. But yeah, but when you work in private, you're basically, they're trying to pay you and give you as little infrastructure as possible to maximize the profits for the shareholders. And that didn't sit well with me. Ideally somewhere like Mondragon in the north of Spain, which has a lot of really high-tech businesses, crossing the railway tracks. There's a lot of high-tech businesses where all of the employees are shareholders in the businesses, and everything's done as a collective decision. That kind of a thing suits me better than working for corporations or private businesses. Just doesn't sit with me. And yes, you can make the argument that when I do YouTube, I'm in a sense working for YouTube, and they're making money out of me and all that kind of thing. But for the most part, I'm an independent contractor. I kind of work for myself and make the kind of content I want to make and do the things I want to do. And that makes it somewhat different. I control my workflow and I control the stuff I do. Yes, there are kind of guardrails around YouTube where you can't do certain kinds of material, which is not the kind of material I want to do anyway. And I don't often bump up against those guardrails doing YouTube. But I like the freedom of doing this and the creativity of doing this. This doesn't seem creative to people. It's just me strapping a camera onto a car and talking. But I chose to do this. All of it is me making my decisions about the way I do stuff. And I kind of dig that. That works for me. And we've hit the highway. And do I want to go along the highway? I probably do. I want to go along the highway. And freeway entrance. And I've got to merge here, so I've got to hit 110 kilometres an hour just along here. So I've got to fang it. Hear that engine roar in order to get to Melton. We're now on the Western Highway to Ballarat, but I'm not going to Ballarat. I'm turning off very soon here and heading to Melton. But yeah, YouTube gives me the creativity, freedom I need to do what I want to do. Like driving 110 kilometres an hour for less than a minute to get to Melton. Yeah, it's really weird. There's a lot of pejorative thoughts about places like Melton and like Tony, where we started. There's a lot of snobbery about where you live in Melbourne, which is encouraged by real estate agents who want to buy and sell your house every 5 years. There's a lot of snobbery about where people live, but more in Sydney as well, but in Melbourne definitely. And my theory, and I've lived in posh suburbs. I lived in a posh suburb for over 4 years once, which was a mistake, but you know. Here's the thing. Every different place has its pluses and minuses. If you know the place fairly well, you can find the cool places and the useful places in any particular area. And inevitably there will be. If there's not, wait a year and there will be. But it depends on what you like. I mean, I used to live in St Kilda in Melbourne, and I moved from St Kilda to a posh place called Balwyn, and that was a culture shock I wasn't ready for, because everything in Balwyn is boring. In fact, Skyhooks wrote a song about how boring Balwyn is, called Balwyn Calling. So I went from the coolest place in Melbourne, which at the time was St Kilda, down by the bay, and I went to the most boring place in Melbourne and stayed there for 4 years because I was in a relationship. And I've got nothing good to say about Balwyn, to be honest with you. It wasn't even good coffee there particularly. But any place you go to, I find there's a lot more texture and a lot more interesting bits and pieces in an ethnically diverse part of Melbourne, like where I live, than there is in the more or less monoculture that Balwyn was in the 1990s. These days there's a Chinese diaspora population there, which made it slightly more interesting, but still not that big on posh areas of town. They tend to be monocultures based around money. Anyway, we're in the outskirts of Melton now, in the bit where all of the kind of car sales places and hardware stores and stuff like that are. But we're going to get in there. I'm going to pull up and first off I'm going to get a drink, because my throat is starting to sandpaper. And then I'm going to check out an op shop or two. These trucks are going very slowly. Not incredibly familiar with Melton. I know the roughness of it. Like in rough terms I know it. But I do know where I'm going. I've got to get a copy of that movie, I Know Where I'm Going, Powell and Pressburger movie, with Wendy Hiller in it. I really got to rewatch that film. But talking about movies is the stuff for the other channel. Going across Toolan Creek. a big golf course on the right there. During lockdowns, there was this big debate in Melbourne about golf courses and whether golf courses should be turned into public parks. I'm on the pro-public park thing. You know, give them a driving range and turn all the golf courses into a park, I say. Because I kind of like having lots and lots of parks. And there is a problem with golf courses in that unless you play golf, they're not accessible, and then you've got to pay to go in the golf course and, you know, whack your balls and all that kind of thing. I much prefer the egalitarianness of a public park. I'm going in a back street here because the back streets are where the cool stuff is. Wallace Square. This has actually picked up a little bit. It looks like they're tarting up the area just a little bit around here. Maybe not too much because it is still to be honest with you, it's a slightly rough area. But I'm going to go here and see what I can see. And now if I go into this parking spot over here on the left, there's a Vinnie's amongst other things. So I'll pop in here. I've gone the wrong way because of course I have. And I'll park and I'll see what I can see. And because I'm going the wrong way on this street, I'll quickly zip into a car park so that people don't get enormously pissed off with me. I'm not a local, mate, I can't help it. I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay, I got coffee, I got water, so that's great. I did pick up a couple of movies as well in the Vinnies, which was kind of cool. I don't normally do movie stuff on this channel, but I'm going to make an exception here. I picked up Road to Perdition, which I didn't have, $2, good deal. And then I picked up a couple of Bogart movies. I don't know if I've got them, but at $2 I'm going to risk it for the biscuit. I've got Dead Reckoning and In a Quiet Place, both on separate discs, both in the proper ratios, for $2 again. So I'm not doing too badly. This part of Melton isn't the best area, to be honest with you. So what I might do from here is fang it out and go somewhere else. I'll go to Bacchus Marsh. Now the battery's getting low on the camera, but I do have a battery backup here. So I'm going to not show you some of the way back to Bacchus Marsh. I'm not going to show you some of the way to Bacchus Marsh because the battery will run out on the camera because I was waffling too much on the way to Cobbledick's Ford. But I'm going to put this on battery backup and get just a little oomph into the camera, but I will show you some of it. Let's just plug that in. There we go. That shouldn't take too long to charge up and we can get going. So I'll sit here with my coffee for a little bit and see where the battery is sitting. Got some good news for you. The battery backup will sit onto this attachment to the windscreen so we can talk all the way to Bacchus Marsh. By the way, the coffee isn't too bad. I've got a little espresso here from a little cafe on the corner. Not bad at all. But let's get the engine going and fang it down to Bacchus Marsh. I may stop at one of the fruit and vegetable markets there because they do pretty good fruit and vegetables, to be honest with you. Everything's locked in. Everything's fine. Everything, as they used to say in the cartoons, is Archie. Everything's Archie. I'll back it out and we will head, oh, there's a big bump there, to the Marsh of Bacchus. He's a Roman god of wine. It's named after Bacchus, the Roman god of wine. So we'll get out here and around the roundabout and head away. Hey, there's a balloon in the road there. You can see it. That was interesting too because apparently, and I was just reading this morning, the airspace over El Paso, Texas was closed down by the American government because they said they were taking care of drones
They were flying over the Mexican border, bringing drugs into America. So for a number of hours, all of this airspace around El Paso, Texas, was shut down while the government decided to take care of these drug drones. Turns out what they saw on the radar was a party balloon. And so they shut down a major city hub, all of their airspace. And I took a look at it on flight radar last night. They shut it all down because somebody's party balloon had set off the Border Patrol's radar, which I find hilarious. I just mentioned that because I saw the balloon. So party balloons apparently are deadly dangerous, according to the United States government, which of course is trustworthy. Yep, so here we are, main drag of Melton. I don't know how I'm going to edit this video because it's going to be a bit long, but that's the way it goes sometimes. There's a big shopping centre further down here, and there's an Indian wholesale supermarket over on the left. See, there's more texture to these multicultural places. There's a Indian grocery store there too, like a greengrocer. Namaste Green, it says. So, yeah, there's more texture to these smaller places that aren't as monocultural as a lot of the posh places, and I find that much more heartening to be in that place. There's a drive-through coffee shop there. If I hadn't have found coffee, I could have gone through the drive-through coffee. Drive-through coffee places here in the general Melbourne area were actually started down in Geelong, where they started a couple of them. They really hit hard. So drive-through coffee, apart from places like Starbucks, which had always had it, and of course they have the McCafe at McDonald's, which makes some of the most egregiously like war crime bad coffee in the known universe. Apart from that, the drive-through coffee shops do pretty well. And here we are, following a bus. See, there is public transport. I might have to go around the bus because the bus is just not doing what I want it to. And of course, the person is sitting alongside the bus is going slowly. But yeah, the coffee's refreshed me, the water's refreshed me. Buying a couple of movies for $4, actually 3 movies for $4, which I consider a fantastic deal, has refreshed me as well. You can take the movies out of the channel, but you can't take the channel out of the movies or something like that. Let's go this way. And I might go to the M80, then get on the freeway again because that's the quickest way to Bacchus Marsh. So we'll go here before we get to the shopping centre. Get down on the highway, whatever comes our way. The nice thing about Bacchus Marsh is it's in a valley, so you kind of come down off a hill into a valley, which I always find the best part of going around there. Getting a bit windy at the moment. There's a lot of cloud flurrying across. So I'm not sure whether the weather's going to turn, but it might not. Who knows? It's a mystery. That's what I could do too. I could show you the area where they filmed the end of Ghost Rider because I can come back home via that way. That might be a way to do it. I'm thinking on the hop here, which can be a mixed blessing. But I am, and I'm really having a good time here. This is fun for me. Hopefully fun for you. So this hump up ahead is the bridge over the freeway, and I'll get to the side I need to get to so that we can go down to Bacchus Marsh. The road into Bacchus Marsh is quite pretty as well, so there's a plus there. Here we go. I'm thinking these driving vlogs must freak out Americans because from their point of view, I'm driving on the wrong side of the road. I'm not, but being as that Americans have their own perception of what the correct side of the road to drive on is. Last place I went to overseas was Japan, and they drive on the same side of the road, the left-hand side of the road, as we do. So I felt very comfortable in a vehicle in Japan. Didn't do too many vehicles because we did a bus, And then we mostly did trains in Shinkansen. But we did do a taxi in Hiroshima, which not many people could say, which was very, very nice. It's probably the prettiest dolled up taxi with like doilies and little pom-poms hanging off the windows and all sorts of things like that. It was a very nice taxi with a very well uniformed gentleman driving it, because we kind of got lost in Hiroshima and couldn't figure our way back to the train station, which is pretty essential getting back to Osaka, where we were staying. We did Hiroshima for a day, but I remember how lovely the taxi was, and it smelled very fragrant and was incredibly meticulously, not new car smell, but like little bits of flower scents and things like that in this taxi. And the guy was incredibly helpful, even though he didn't speak English and my Japanese was mostly sumimasen. But we had a good time with that. So here we are, we get back onto the freeway now, which means I've got to get up to 110 kilometers an hour. You could translate that into miles per hour for yourself, because I'm not going to. I'm not doing mathematics. I'm driving. That's what the internet's for. Here we are. Bacchus Marsh, 30 kilometers. We could actually go to Adelaide, which is 686 kilometers away. But if I went to Adelaide, middle-aged Kiko would kill me. And I was sure I could do 686 kilometers and back for about 2 p.m. It's not quite able to be done. But I don't mind to drive to Adelaide. Goes through some interesting places. And I know some very good people there. So we're on the outskirts of Melton now. Over to the left is the greyhound racing track. I think it's greyhound racing or trotting, one of those animal-related sports. Not sure if I've done a video. I did a video of Ballarat earlier on the channel. Really should do Ballarat again, but I might take the train because I've never taken the train to Ballarat before. And like train travel's cheap. Getting to Ballarat, the back it cost me like $5 on a train. So that might be a deal that's into the future of the channel. Get me out of the house, get me out of middle-aged kid girl's hair. Yeah, that could be fun. And here we are in Wurundjeri country. And all respect to the First Nations owners of the land, which has never seen it. Yeah, we have to go down through these hills and they'll eventually lead us down into Bacchus Marsh. So we've gone from dead flat to hilly. So you're getting a bit of variety in this video. And I need a little sip of water. So with my left hand, multitasking, as people say Beck can't do, I'm going to get a drink. It gets very windy up on these hills too. And now we're coming down the hill toward Bacchus Marsh. And I'll get back into that lane now. See, it's only 7 kilometers down to Bacchus Marsh. But make your time. So we go down is the valley here. And the exit similar kilometre, which is the one I take, is like 3 exits to Bacchus Marsh. Well, this is the fun part. And if you look downhill here, you'll see all the market gardens of the fruit trees underneath their mesh, producing a lot of really good fruit, veg, and I'm planning to stop at one of the fruit and veg markets to see what I can find. 5 kilometres to Bacchus Marsh. Here we are on the off-ramp. You can see all of the crates for the fruit over there on the left. Rumble strips. These are the rumble strips that stop people fanging off the highway at 110 kilometers an hour and doing a mischief to themselves. Pick your own cherries. It's closer. There must be cherry trees there. That's kind of cool. Maybe the cherries have all been picked. But like I said, this is a nice little road through the trees. I'm not going to the fruit market over there on the right because I've been there before. Says, is that it? That's further on. But I will. There's one over here on the left, a fruit and veg market that I haven't tried before. So I'm going to give that one a go. And just see it happen. See, Australian flag. Australian flags anywhere are a sign. Oh, well, this one actually is different. This is what they call an avenue of honour. And all of these trees commemorate the soldiers who died in various ill-considered wars, some of the better considered ones. But they planted the trees after World War One, and each one was planted from one of the local guys who didn't come back from World War One. I had a granduncle who didn't come back from World War One. My mum's uncle, who was my grandfather's brother, never found his body. He was in one of those horrible trench warfare things during World War One, and the best theory is he got disintegrated in a big bomb blast. Never came back. So I'm kind of always a bit somber going through avenues of honour, which a lot of country towns have in Australia, particularly the older country towns. Is it Market? No, I missed that one, but I'm getting the next one. Yeah, they're there to commemorate family members who were cannon fodder. There's a back road back to Werribee, but I'm not taking that. I'm going into Bacchus Marsh. I think the fruit market one is over here on the left somewhere. There's one over on the right, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's over here on the left. Well, I think I'll slide into this one. It's a nursery as well. And they've got a cafe, but don't let that fool you. There's never good coffee at these places. The Big Apple Cafe, it says. Not sure whether I'm going in the right way here or not. But who knows? And if I can park here, or can I? Yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. I'll just pull in here, even though it's kind of, sort of, on the side of the road. I'll see you guys in a little bit.
So that wasn't a fruit and veg place, it was a cafe. But it was a cafe that had free books for people's road trips. I took a little bit of a video of it and I'll show it to you now. I think that's kind of cool. Didn't feel like another coffee, so I'm going to go back to the other fruit stand and see what I can find. So I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. Actually, I'll keep it going, but I'll face it forward and I'll put the mic back on myself. And we can go from there, because I made a boo-boo again. But that's probably the theme of this video. Terry screws up, and there's somebody walking behind me very slowly, because they often do. And back on the road for a little bit to get back to the other fruit and veg market, which is around the curve there. And I'm holding up traffic because this guy wants to go, but we've got a sudden traffic jam. I've just got to wait for everybody to get past so I can get out. Come on, Auntie. Come on, you know you can do it. Okay, this may take a while. So, actually less time than I thought. Here we go. And we'll go down here, which isn't a bad fruit market. I don't mind this one. If this is the one I'm thinking of, yeah, it is. Or is it? No, this isn't the one. This is something else. Another stuff up, yay! It's further down. Through the Avenue of Honour again. I did mention I haven't had breakfast, didn't I? Yeah. That's what I'm blaming on. My lack of breakfast is the reason why I am screwing this up so much. Is this it? There's a berry farm there. That's not it. If I end up back on the road to Melbourne, I'm going to be a bit unhappy. I am, you know. So I'm going to have to find a place to throw a Yui. I can pull into here and throw a Yui. which, well, we'll probably do. Rumble strip. But I believe there's a toilet here, so there's always a little bit of heaven in the disaster area. I'll see you soon. I'll meet you when I get back to where I'm supposed to be.